Instead of seeing any of the big three make it to the top, we had someone unexpected take the entire world of tennis by surprise. Yep, that's right. We're talking about the Spanish tennis player Carlos Alcaraz. The young champion has definitely made a name for himself this year, but that's all that he's earned. The 19-year-old earned a huge amount in his breakout season, and we're here to tell you all about it. First up, here's how much Carlos Alcaraz earned this season. At this point, that name needs no introduction. Carlos Alcaraz has climbed the heights of fame and talent this year, and there's really no doubt about it. The Spanish player has broken a lot of records this season, and we're not just talking about the number of titles he's bagged or how he's reached the top of the official rankings list. No. Today we're focusing on the fact that he's beaten all the other tennis players by being the ATP Tour's highest earning player of the year. After hearing that, you must definitely be wondering exactly how much did this young guy earn in a season? Well, we won't tease you any longer. The 19-year-old earned some $15 million for a season that turned out to be quite a breakthrough for him. And what's more, that's more than how much Djokovic and Nadal earned. Looks like Alcaraz is truly a record breaker through and through. Up next is how it's been a breakthrough year for the 19-year-old. Well, it's no secret that this has been Alcaraz's year. We all saw him grab title after title at big tennis tournaments, and we couldn't help but be in awe of how much he managed to accomplish this year. In light of that, of course, it makes sense to bring up his achievements again and again. When Alcaraz started this year, he was ranked number 32 on the ATP rankings list, and now, with the season done and dusted, he's managed to finish as number 1, which is surprising considering how we only ever see the big three dominate that list. The 19-year-old went on to win the Miami title in April, and after that, we saw him win titles in both Barcelona and Madrid. When the Spanish player made it to the US Open in August, he was placed 4th on the rankings list. Who knew that 2 weeks later, he would end up not just winning the biggest tennis tournament, but also making it to number 1 on the list? None of us saw it coming. We knew he had potential, but we had no idea he would make it to the top this early. Unfortunately, due to an abdominal injury, the young champion couldn't take part in the ATP finals. Still, he had a pretty good season and managed to stay number 1. Alcaraz came, he saw, he conquered. That's the best way to put it. Now for who else has their name on the year-end ATP rankings list. Talking about the ATP rankings list, it's worth mentioning who else made it to the top. In second place, we've got none other than the legendary Rafael Nadal. It's interesting to note that the 2 top players on the list this year happen to be Spanish. The last time 2 men from the same country finished in 1st and 2nd place was back in 1996, with Americans Pete Sampras and Michael Chang being the ones to take those ranks. Casper Ruud, the Scandinavian player, has finished this season as number 3. The last time we saw a Scandinavian player occupy one of the top ranks on the list was when Stefan Edberg finished as number 2 in 1992, and that's a pretty long time ago. Stefanos Tsitsipas finished in 4th place, and in 5th place we had the Serbian player Novak Djokovic. Unfortunately, the Serbian couldn't finish as number 1 as he missed some tournaments due to the whole unvaccinated thing. What's more, Nadal and Alcaraz will be facing each other in a couple of months. With that out of the way, we've got to talk about Rafael Nadal and Carlos Alcaraz crossing paths for the 4th time. It's going to happen in March 2023, and we're so very excited to see them play against each other once again. We know a lot of people compare Alcaraz to Nadal, and the 19-year-old himself has dismissed these comparisons because he feels it's unfair considering how Nadal's had a longer career. What's more, Nadal's been vocally supportive of the young champion's achievements, so they've got a pretty friendly competitive sports spirit out there. On top of that, both of them are 2 very talented players, so we really just cannot wait to see how it'll unfold between the 2. Moving on, should we expect a big physical transformation from Alcaraz for the 2023 season? Earlier, we mentioned that Alcaraz had to step away from the ATP finals in Turin this year in light of his abdominal injury. When the 2022 season began, we saw the 19-year-old go through a pretty huge transformation in terms of physical fitness. But with his recent abdominal injury, the young champion had to focus on recovering so that he can give the 2023 season his all. Alberto Lledo, the Spanish tennis player's fitness coach, talked about the progress Alcaraz had made in recovering from his injury. According to Lledo, everything seems to be okay so far. They did some tests recently and nothing serious has shown up. Because of the injury, there had to be certain changes in Alcaraz's fitness routine. Again, according to his fitness coach, right now they've mainly focused on strength, cardiovascular, and injury prevention exercises. Alcaraz is participating in the Mubadala World Tennis Championship in Abu Dhabi on December 16th. Once the 19-year-old's done with that, he'll begin some explosive fitness training which would be more tennis-centered. For the 2022 season, it was pretty obvious that Alcaraz had done some intense physical exercise, seeing how bulky his arms were. We all know that was so the 19-year-old could play those shots with power, but it's unlikely unlikely we'll see such a drastic change in his physique for the 23 season, according to Alberto Lledo. Despite that, Alcaraz is pretty serious about his physical health, and there's no doubt he's going to work hard to keep himself in shape for the upcoming season. What's more, the 2023 season is definitely going to be tougher, so there's no compromising on his health at this stage. Let's take a look at what Juan Carlos Ferrero has to say about coaching Alexander Zverev. Juan Carlos Ferrero recently talked about what it's like to coach the German tennis player Alexander Zverev. Well, it wasn't the best for poor Ferrero. Looks like the two didn't get along all that well, and even though the 42-year-old didn't exactly go into details about what went down with Alexander when the two made the decision to part ways in 2018, it was clear that they didn't have a great time. The little we know is that Ferrero had issues with Zverev's professionalism, while on the other hand, the German player wanted some freedom from Ferrero's coaching during tournaments. Seeing how it wasn't working out between the two, it probably was the best decision for them to part ways. The good thing is that Ferrero has the pleasure of coaching Alcaraz now. Coming up, the experience Ferrero has had with Carlos Alcaraz. You know that Ferrero has had a pretty great experience with Alcaraz, seeing how he's called the 19-year-old his son. That's a very healthy bond between the two of them. We're glad that the 42-year-old is having such a good time with Alcaraz. What's more, Ferrero talked about how working with Alcaraz is very easy. On top of that, the two have so much to teach each other, so the dynamics between the two are very balanced. Not to mention, the coach has been nominated for a Coach of the Year award. Talking about coaching and everything, we guess it's appropriate to mention the ATP's Coach of the Year award. If you didn't know, we're here to tell you that Juan Carlos Ferrero had been nominated for this award. The 42-year-old had been coaching since 2017, and he's only coached 2 players so far. Let's see if they name him as the winner of this award. If they do, it would be pretty good news for Ferrero. Also, it's worth mentioning how when the award was announced this year, Nick Kyrgios jokingly tweeted about getting the award because he coached himself to a Wimbledon final. And finally, Carlos Alcaraz talks about his recovery and ending the year being world #1. We're all hoping that Alcaraz finishes rehab soon enough and has a complete recovery before the 23 season. Now that he's made a name for himself, we're very eager to see him next season.
I will remember this day with all of you, and yeah, my thoughts are with all of you guys.
Recently, the 19-year-old talked about how the entire recovery process is going, and so far, it's been good. What's more, the young champion believes that he'll definitely have recovered completely once the new season begins. After all, he has to deliver his 100% for the upcoming season, because as 2022's #1, he's got some tough competition next year.
#1 times 2.
And with that, that's a wrap for this video. Do you think Carlos Alcaraz will stay #1 next season? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see ya in the next one.